Hey everyone, and welcome back to Marvel on Ice. I'm your host Joe, and I'm here with Rick and our friend Stun. Stun, go ahead and tell everyone who you are, so they know.
Hi, I'm Stunny Link. I'm joining my friends here in their channel, and it feels great, and I feel
I want to
honored.
That's
hear your
quite
life
enough.
story.
Okay.
Okay, so today we're going to be bringing you guys our thoughts on the very first episode of the brand new Netflix series Daredevil. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start us off here. I want to go ahead and talk about the very first opening scene, which was a lot a lot better than the scene from the original movie in because it definitely made you feel a lot more. Obviously, those who know Daredevil, Matt Murdock gets into an accident and he has chemicals get into his eyes, and that's how he goes blind. But it was very traumatic the way they did this because his father was there and he held him and he saw the chemicals, he saw his eyes, he knew he was going to go blind, and there was absolutely nothing he could do. You just had this sense of helplessness, and all he could do was hold his boy as he watched him go blind, as he was screaming and he was calling for help, and he just knew it was going to happen. And it was a very, very sad, dark, traumatic moment. What did you guys think of that?
Well, I personally thought I really liked. When we see that first scene, it's right there. That's how it starts off. It really sets the tone for what this show is trying to do. It is a lot darker. It's definitely not. It's really different from the movie because in the movie you had kind of like it's a very kind of playful movie. Like you saw we talk about the scene where they dance. The tone. Like, you're right. That interaction between Matt and his dad is just great.
Yeah, it really sort of just lets you know straight from the start what kind of ride you're in for. No, so fast forward a little bit, we see Matt as an adult, and we see his friend Foggy, and they're both on their first day as lawyers, and it was a very funny scene as when Foggy bribes a cop's mother with cigars, and he lets him know about a client, and they meet this girl, the girl being Karen Page, and they have to defend her from she's been set up, and it's not quite clear why, but the first interaction, it's pretty obvious. They have all the evidence against her that she's guilty, and Matt Murlock, he's listening to her heart to see if she's lying.
Yeah, you really do get to see a lot of um, because Matt Murdock is blind. You really do get to see it shows off throughout the episode what he gets these abilities is kind of like the things he can do, especially with and the scene with Karen being introduced to the show was again, it continues its tone where it's following Frank Miller's run on Daredevil, Man Without Fear. It is just out there. It is gritty as hell, and it still amazes me that some like a show like this is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right, and speaking of the Frank Miller run, we see the very first thing when he gets into action, he's rocking the Frank Miller sort of ninja esque outfit with the sort of bandana over his head, and I really liked seeing that because it was just I don't know. I think I kind of like that better than the actual Daredevil costume. It's weird. It's just this random guy who's got like kind of he's got a bandana over his head so he can't see, but he's blind already. But it just sort of makes it more like freaky for the people he's fighting because they don't know what the hell's going on. And then the action scene, the very first one, it was crazy, right? Because you would have sworn that he wasn't blind by how well and the fight scenes are, but they add things in there every once in a while to remind you that he is blind. Like he'll listen for things. He has awkward pauses. Yeah, they did a really really great job with the fighting scenes. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah, the fighting
I want to
scenes
say the thing about.
they were
Go ahead.
really well done. Like like all like the choreography and like the effects that were put into that, like it's pretty gory. So get prepared for that. And I also want to bring up, I just want to rewind it a little bit back to the intro of the show, and
Hmm.
it's showing like buildings and bridges and an angel. I feel like that's symbolizing things that's going to either happen in the show or just different things that's like reflecting like different characters and different events that's going to happen. I think that was a really good job that they've done.
Yeah, that
Yeah, that
was
intro especially. There's a lot of stuff that it really does give you. It tells you about what you're gonna expect from Daredevil. It gives a little bit of his personality. The blood, the blood is building the city. It's showing that this is not kind of a corrupt city. And then, like you said, all the religious imagery is gonna show about, Daredevil. Matt Murdock is a very religious character when it comes in the comic book. So they're gonna show that in the show, especially in this first episode.
Yeah, it showed him like even in a confession at a church, so that was like a nice touch too.
right. So in going back to that intro, the it's very artistic in the same style that the Hannibal intro's in. If anybody's ever seen that, but the thing that you were saying about it building Hell's Kitchen, the thing I noticed about it is that it looks like it's rebuilding Hell's Kitchen because as it goes up, you see some of the buildings are sort of like ruined or so, and then they shape up, and then they look newer when it's done. And then you said something earlier about it, the cinematic universe, and it very well may be tied to it because throughout you keep hearing that something terrible happened to Hell's Kitchen, and the belief right now is that were the events from the first Avengers movie. So there's a really good chance that this is connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is already a step ahead from DC because DC is keeping their TV and cinematic universes separate. So that's something that I'd be really excited for if they kept them connected.
Yeah, I really do like that again about that intro. It does it's showing what's gonna happen. That we see the criminals are building the city after what happened to the Avengers as what they call the event. Is that what they called it when they
Yeah,
were looking into the yeah.
yeah, that it's crazy. They're keeping it very vague. They don't want to tell us what happened yet, and yeah, that's only what you can assume that was happening. Um,
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure they're doing that on purpose because they want to they wanted to be a part of the universe, but they also wanted to stand on its own. Because as we were talking about the action scenes, this is a lot more brutal. It's not like when you throw someone off and like into a building. It's not like, oh no, they're fine. They're a god or they're in a super suit. No, they get all their bones broken. It's really brutal and visceral.
yeah. So overall, I was extremely impressed with the very first episode, and I cannot wait to just get back to watching it. I definitely recommend it. But right now, before we go, I just want to talk about what everybody's favorite scene was.
I really just gotta say that action scene when you first see him come up, when you just see him, it really much reminds me of Batman Begins. It reminds me of Batman Begins where, the criminals are just getting their asses kicked, and then the one guy just goes up trying to find it, who's doing this, and then, bam, he just gets them, and it's great.
I really like the scene where they were talking to the Karen character,
Hmm.
and how Daredevil was like hearing her heartbeat. I really like that just because it was showing off one of his strengths or like one of his things that he can do. I thought that was like well done as well. I also I like the beginning just because of like how dark it was and how like well explained. Well, not really well explained, but like I think you know like what I mean.
Right,
Like
and
yeah,
right, and speaking of his hearing, that's a good point you came across. Is that um, I like the way they did it in this one. That it's just strictly hearing. He's completely blind. They stick to their guns. And I remember in the movie he had some kind of weird vision still, where he could still actually see. But I like how they kept him completely blind, and he has to rely like solely on his other senses. Um, yeah, but I gotta say my favorite scene personally, it has to be near the beginning when he's in the confessional. I loved that scene. That was awesome. It really you really picked inside of his brain and got to see what he was honestly thinking, and he was surprisingly honest with the father too, and there was just a bunch of awesome lines in there. How the Murdoch boys have the devil in them, and he talked about his father a lot, and then I had my favorite line in there too. He goes, "I'm not asking for penance for what I'm done. I'm asking for what I'm gonna do." It was just really that's what sold me on this show from the very beginning.
Well, I agree. This is a great start to a brand new series. I hope we're gonna review the rest of the series, and I hope that it is as good as this episode.
All right, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time when we do our opinions on the second episode. So stick around for that.